In Top Gear Motorsport this week, can Dougie Lampkin win the World Trials title? I'm at Brands Hatch to celebrate 30 years of Formula V racing. And there's more frantic Eurocar action from Mallory Park. Welcome to Top Gear Motorsport. We're back at Brands Hatch for a birthday celebration. 1997 marks the 30th anniversary of Formula V racing in this country, and this is probably the largest gathering of this popular single-seater formula ever seen. Join me later in the programme to see what they're like to race. The first ever Formula V race in Britain was on June the 18th, 1967, 4 years after it was created in the States. Since then, there have been championships all over the world: Australia, South Africa, and most of Europe. World champions like Jochen Rindt, Emerson Fittipaldi, Niki Lauda, and Keke Rosberg all cut their teeth in Vs. But the formula has always played second fiddle to Formula Ford, also 30 years old this year. While Formula Ford remains a popular stepping stone to stardom for the big-budget boys, Formula V has established itself as probably the most competitive and best value-for-money single-seater formula for drivers who just want to have fun.
It's the camaraderie of the people. It's the people who are involved, the fact that you have a problem, someone mucks in and helps you, gets you out of trouble.
Formula V is very competitive, great fun, and doesn't cost an absolute fortune.
Because it's inexpensive, it's good fun, there's a lot of good competition, a lot of nice people.
It's fantastic single-seater racing, the best value for money there is out there.
This is it.
Ian Flux was reunited with the Scarab, which took him to the 75 title. Where's the funny earlobe thing?
No, they cut those off. That's the race I won the championship here. When we first became friends, Tiff.
Oh, you were supporting events. Look, me, Formula Ford, leading the pack. Flux, Formula V, inside
winning the championship.
Lap record, Ian Flux, 53.8. That time wouldn't have got Ian through the qualification race this year, but that's more due to better tyres than design improvements in the cars. The regulations have hardly changed in the 30 years. There's still the same flat-four 1300cc air-cooled engine, the standard Volkswagen gearbox, standard swing axle rear suspension and drum brakes. While at the front, this torsion bar front beam comes straight out of your dear old Beetle. The rest of the formula is modern single-seater technology with adjustable dampers, adjustable anti-roll bars and this standard treaded racing tyre. I'd qualified my 97 Spider fourth fastest for the UK-based Hella Championship race, 0.6 of a second outside the current lap record, but 3 rows ahead of old Fluxy. And whatever they say, once you're strapped in on the grid, the joking stops.
30 Formula V's getting into row, 5 seconds. Watch those lights, Steve.
I thought I'd made a reasonable start, but first Trevor Welch eased past on the inside, and then Jeremy Clark attacked round the outside. When the lights change, they get serious. Up the hill to Druids, and I was concentrating on fending off Clark. Well, not quite, but I've lost a couple more places, and the handling feels a bit weird.
Well, that was my fault, totally. The guys on the inside just braked more than I thought they would, and I was in them.
Up ahead, Welch seemed to have survived my assault, and I was still running. V's are not only cheap, but robust as well. Now it was time to fight back, and I dived inside Brian Simpson at Druids to take 7th place. He thought about instant retaliation, but there was no way through. Up front, reigning champion Ray Moore was fending off Martin Brown in a tremendous battle for the lead. And Gary O'Brien was ready to pounce if either made a mistake or gave him any room. Behind, I was still having trouble shaking off Brian Simpson, who slipstreamed up alongside into paddock and then made a bold move round the outside.
I thought he was going to break before me. That's why I was holding it down on the outside.
You thought I was going to break before you?
Oh, I was hoping you was going to break before me, but obviously you didn't, so I just had to run round the outside of you and hope we didn't collect each other and take each other out.
And if that wasn't bad enough, the engine dropped a valve and Flux swept by on his way to 7th place.
And there endeth another day's racing.
Up front, Moore was still fending off Brown, while O'Brien was getting more ambitious. Too ambitious. Next time up to paddock, though, Moore left the door open and Brown grabbed the lead, much to Ray's disgust.
We have been trying to do cheap racing professionally, you know, and that's probably why I get so upset when I do silly things like that.
Martin Brown had benefited from his rival's mistakes.
I saw Gary O'Brien spin off. That was great. I knew the pressure was off from behind me and I just had to concentrate on Ray. And then Ray just left a little gap going into paddock, and that was it. I got him.
Back in the pits, Spider designer Mike Steely surveyed the damage. There will be no drive for me in the international race, unless I could borrow another Spider.
Alan, you not wanted to get out in this race?
No, I think I'd rather see you out in it and see what a real driver can do in my car. That car is the business, and I'm just pleased to see a good driver in it.
To my amazement, Alan Shaw had turned Father Christmas, and after a few hasty adjustments, I was able to take up my grid position in a car I'd never driven before. I'd qualified 6th behind Ian Flux, Ray Moore and Martin Brown, plus a couple of Germans on the front row. As the lights turned green, Erwin Gasser brakes his transmission, so I'm 5th. By paddock, both Flux and I have slipped ahead of Moore, and I'm 4th. This is a bit more like it. Up to Druids on the outside. Time, though, for discretion and a moment to get a feel for the car. But Moore is up my inside, and Simpson watches as I hang on and then have the better line for Graham Hill Bend. Into Druids on lap 2, and Joachim Lutz runs wide, letting through Brown and Flux. The German regulations allow them to run with wings and slick tyres, and in this international race, Flux has opted for slicks as well, improving his times by a good half a second a lap. And the extra traction through Graham Hill Bend allowed him to get a run at Brown to take the lead into Surtees. I was still on treaded tyres, and when Lutz went wide at Clearways, I was able to dive inside him on the way in, but he had the traction on the way out. Alan's car was handling superbly, but when I changed to 4th, the engine died. In no time, Moore and Andres Serrano were passed, followed by Simpson, down to 7th in a flash, before I discovered I'd knocked the ignition off. Now I was going again, but with a real fight on my hands. Up front, Brown was back in the lead, but once again Flux had the advantage on the run to Surtees. But Lutz had the slicks and the wings, and he made no more mistakes as he regained the lead and swept towards victory. Just ahead of me, Simpson and Serrano were having a right old tussle, and when I saw them both dive for the inside on the way into Graham Hill Bend, I knew all I had to do was to take the racing line and sweep past both of them on the way out. Magic. Simpson wasn't about to give up that easily, and 1 lap later he was ahead of Serrano into Surtees, but the Ecuadorian gave him a little tap and escaped with a telltale broken nose. 4 laps to go, and at the front, Lutz leads from Flux ahead of Moore, while I've caught right up with Brown. Time for the old dive up the inside at Clearways, and I'm passed into 4th. 3 laps to go, and 2nd to 5th is a tight little train. I jerk out of the slipstream and edge past Moore, and then spot a yellow flag. A quick wave to indicate no passing, and Moore stays put beside me. But he reckons I passed under the yellow, so I get a wave back. Or is it a shake of the fist? Anyway, I'm 3rd, and for once the camera isn't a curse. Mind you, it hadn't benefited Simpson much. Trying to get back past his mate Serrano, it had all gone wrong. He was the reason for those yellow flags. Lutz is long gone in the lead, but I'm determined to get Flux for 2nd place, slicks or no slicks. Onto the straight to start the last lap, and I'm in the perfect position for a good tow from Flux's slipstream, and then round the outside into the lead of the British drivers' race at least. Yes! Onto the bottom straight where Flux has that advantage, but I have the bit of track he wants. Into Clearways for the last time. Hog the inside line. Get a got him. I don't believe it. I've missed the change and given it away. But after a brilliant race, I do have the consolation of a new lap record to celebrate on Formula V's birthday. Congratulations, though, to the winner, Joachim Lutz, and to the first Briton home, me old mate Flux.
Well, Ian, that wasn't bad for a couple of old boys, was it?
And look at the size of mine. This could have been yours if you hadn't have missed that gear.
Swine. They said Formula V would be fun, and what other formula would someone lend you their own precious car? Thanks, Alan.
Next week...
Band across there, and underneath there, so the band you watch.
Yeah, I never even bothered to try.
This is lower, this rocking vehicle one, so it actually bottoms out as you go down paddock.
Right, so
You just hear it.
the same, that's the main thing about racing cars. If you can make them go quicker by changing little things, then they, you know, they're just quick. And always start the gear. The gear ratios annoy you, you know, like you start changing gear ratios. That's very similar to Formula Ford and the car. So how long have you had this chassis then?
3 years ago, there was light off, more bends and stuff, and year building stuff.